Welcome to Marketing Made Simple TV. My name is Jeff Ogden, the host of the show, and I'm thrilled to have you back once again for another great show. And we have another great guest on the show for you today. And I'm really happy to welcome her to the show. Ekaterina Walter is a social media innovator at Intel. She's a recognized business and marketing thought leader. She's a speaker, and she regularly contributes to Fast Company, Huffington Post, and similar publications. She's also the author of a brand new book called Think Like Zuck, The 5 Business Secrets of Facebook's Improbably Brilliant CEO, Mark Zuckerberg. She's been featured in Forbes Business Review at USA, and she's been named among the 25 women who rock social media in 2012. So with that said, let's welcome Ekaterina to the show.
Hi, Jeff. How are you? Hello, everybody.
Hi, it's good to have you on the show, and everything seems to be working really well now, so I don't think we're going to have any problems. So let's kick this off with the same question I ask every guest on the show, which is really simple. Who are you?
All right, great. I am a passionate marketer. Simply that's kind of who I am. I've been at Intel for 7 years. Last 4, I've been driving social business change within Intel, which we started about 4 years ago. So anything from driving global strategies to putting deadlines in place to identifying the tools that we need to use for listening, for analytics, a lot of other sort of supporting a lot of other efforts we're doing, and really scaling globally across the world. We're in over 50 countries and have 100,000 employees globally. So really working with different stakeholders and putting sort of central strategies in place that help us become social business. On the side, I love to advise startups. I am on the board of directors of Word of Mouth Marketing Association, which I believe is doing great things to really help our industry mature. Of course, you mentioned that just recently wrote my first book, so really excited about it coming out.
Good, and I want to ask you about your book. Now, one of the things I noticed about the book, and I've read it, is it's Think Like Zuck. It's not really a book about Facebook. It's not really a book about Mark Zuckerberg. So tell our audience, what did you write about when you wrote that book?
Well, I think there's sort of people think Facebook and Mark Zuckerberg, and they think it's a social media book. Actually, I mean, it is a book about sort of Facebook's growth and things that they did right or wrong, and Mark Zuckerberg as a leader, not fully about him. There's other companies discussed that, like Dyson, Tom's, Threadless, College Humor, and several smaller companies that probably haven't been covered in other books or not known. But to me, Think Like Zuck is more of an analogy. It's a mentality or philosophy of a leader that who's passionate about something, who leads with change, with purpose, and leads change out there, and builds strong teams to support that change or that purpose that he or she has in mind. And not only that, but who also brings the right partners on board and partners smartly with others. So the book has 5 sort of big sections, or 5 P's that I focus on, and they're passion, purpose, people, products, and partnerships. And then within each one of them, I talk about the tips, supported by stories and supported by examples of a brand I already mentioned. Stories that show different learnings and lessons that we can take away and we can use in our lives, not just for entrepreneurs, though I think that that's the target audience that would probably want to read the book, but also entrepreneurs, people like me within a brand who want to lead the change or have been leading the change and want to do it on a bigger scale or want to do it more effectively. I think both Zuckerberg and a lot of other leaders that I mentioned in the book have a lot of lessons to offer and sort of pitfalls to avoid, and I'm hoping that book will be valuable from that perspective.
Good. I'm excited about your book coming out. That's great news. So one of your P's you talk about is product, and you said that great companies don't just create great products, but they create movements. And we had Robin Phillips of Brains on Fire on recently, and she talked about movements. I'm sure you know Robin.
I read Brand on Fire book, Jeff, and it's one of my favorite actually books, favorite marketing books and just favorite books in general. It's a great read.
Good, good. Well, you and Robin both talk about the need to create movements. Tell us, what is a movement? Tell our audience why movements are important and why it's not just about creating products.
You know, a lot of times when we think about building a business, right, we think P&L, we think particular product, and we think about selling and pitching that product. I think a lot of the word of mouth or a lot of advocacy and passion that happens around your brand, around the product, is specifically done by people or specifically created by people who are really sharing the same purpose. So, example, you know, Tom's shoes, he wanted to put shoes on every single barefoot child in multiple countries. You know, so he started with one, and then he grew with countries around the world, including actually U.S. You know, he had a purpose to create his business. He had a purpose. He knew what he wanted to go do. And what he did around that is he hired people who shared the same beliefs. They hired who shared the same purpose and same values, and who wanted to support him in that. Not just, I want to work for a cool brand like Tom's, but from the beginning, really understanding what he's trying to do. Because a lot of people are saying, "Oh my God, are you crazy, Blake? What are you doing? Why are you even thinking that this model is going to work?" And so I think it's true in any business that, you know, creating a movement requires people who really understand what you want to do and who share that value with you. And that could be your customers, it could be your employees, it could be your vendors. So what I mean by creating a movement is, don't just put a product out there and say, "Oh great, I enjoy using it," but explain to people what are you trying to do. Bring people on board around you, no matter who they are, by communicating well, by leading with purpose, by leading by example, and really building a team that would believe in the same things and would help you take that product to a totally new level. And implement it on a higher scale. So I think when I say create movements, is I think the advice that I would give to leaders is think bigger, not just, well, here's the thing I want to go achieve, this quarter, this year, but what is my purpose? What is that we're passionate about? Why have we started this company? And focus around that.
Good, yeah, certainly creating movements. And one of the things which Robin said is campaigns have a start and an end. Movements don't. As long as passionate, committed people are involved, a movement keeps going. Now, a corollary to movements is, and there was a book about this, which you referenced in your book, not talking about what we do, but why we do it, and answering the why question. Explain to us, to the audience, why answering the why question is so important.
Well, I think a lot of times we don't really think about underlying reasons, behind. We start something and we remember why we were doing it, and then we tend to forget because we get so busy in everyday lives. And there's a lot of times, even on personal level, where you kind of wake up one day and you used to be passionate about something and you're not anymore. So I think in both business and in both your personal life, whatever goals that you have, whatever you want to achieve, that understanding of why, where I want to go, what are my passions, what is my purpose, is very critical to understand. A friend of mine read the book and he said, he spent a couple of hours really going back to those basics and mapping out, what he loves. And sometimes it's something totally different from a particular business you may be running right now. And I think in business specifically, it's important to get going back to that why. And the way Zuckerberg does that, for example, is his whole purpose in life and his passion is to connect people around the world and to make the world more transparent and more open. And so what he does is everything that he does is grounded in that. And I mean, 9 years later, this February 4th, I believe it's going to be 9 years since the inception of Facebook, since it went live. And for those 9 years, he was extremely focused on everything that he does, staying on that message, staying on that passion, and building the team that is passionate about similar things. And so I think from that perspective, staying true and staying focused and building around your purpose really makes you go, I think, better, and it makes you better, more successful business.
Yeah, that's great. I have a very simple example of answering the why question. It was years ago when Steve Jobs was recruiting John Scully from PepsiCo. And he said to him, he said, John, do you want to sell sugar water the rest of your life, or do you want to change the world? And I think that just epitomizes the why. You know, people, let's like, rah, let's go change the world. You know?
Absolutely, but you know, the thing is there's something to be said about really following what you believe in and building around your purposes or building around your personal conviction. I mean, take example of Steve Jobs and Pixar. 9 years Jobs been losing money on Pixar for 9 long years and putting more and more of his own money. But he believed in the impact that animation is going to have on the world and in its future so much that he continued to build around it. So I think a lot of times we get discouraged, and being an entrepreneur is a hard business. It's going against the grain all the time, or at least for a while. And so I think that sort of going back to what you said, you know, do you really want to sell sugar water or change the world? I think there's something to be said for that, and you know, and that belief of a leader and belief of the team around you, I think can really build amazing things. But the overnight success can take years. Let's put it that way.
That's a good point. And one company you cited in the book is Zappos. And I had Jen Lem on an earlier show a while ago. And one of the things that you find out when you look at Zappos, okay, they were sold for billions of dollars to Amazon, and it looks like everything looks great. They were touch and go for a long time. They didn't know how they were going to make payroll. They almost went out of business. And in the Facebook example, you talk about Mark Zuckerberg. He had many opportunities to sell the company, and things weren't always going great at Facebook. You know what? And you just touched on this a little more, and I'd like to talk a little bit more about it. Of sticking through it, even through the tough times, because I always say the road to heaven goes directly through hell.
You know, Jeff, I think it's true. So, you know, if you read Tony's book, right, he talks about the fact that when they fall on hard times, what happened is a lot of people left. And the ones who stayed with him are the ones that are part of that movement. They believed in the business model that they were building. They believed that this is going to work. And they stayed. They took pay cuts. They rallied around, and actually, as a matter of fact, he said they were more efficient and effective in that time period than ever before with those, you know, with that smaller team of people. But imagine you put a small team of people together. Imagine what you can do with that passion, what you can do with that, you know, motivation, that small team that believes in what you want to go achieve. You know, and I think that definitely is one of the critical factors that plays a role. Is if you do not build a movement and you fall on hard times, or you have, you know, periods where you might not even, you know, make payroll, I think that's where it comes in play, where that sort of the movement and that sort of dedication comes in place, because the people that stay with you are the ones who believe in what you're trying to build, and they will work harder because they believe in that.
That's a good point. Certainly, finding passionate people has got to be a big factor. Now, one of the other things you talk about in the book is the importance of creating a culture in a company, and you give some examples in the company. Tell us about culture, why it's so important, and how do companies, even a company like Intel, how do you go about creating?
Well, you know, I think it starts with your purpose. It starts with communicating it out. And when you recruit people, you recruit around that culture. So Facebook is a culture, hacker culture. And the way they recruit it is they look for people who think like them, right, or who think like Zuck. They hold hackathons, not just internally but externally, to see how people engage, who are the smart folks out there who might be, you know, interested in coming in, for example, working for them. You know, Intel has always been an innovative culture, and I think the reason why is because we are allowed, we are empowered to go take risks. We're allowed to try new things, and if you know, if we fail, we get up fast, we dust ourselves off, and off we go doing new things. And especially that's been especially true is I kind of looked at our social media center of excellence when we created it about 4 years ago as a kind of like small startup within a big company, and it was truly a startup culture where there was a team of 3 of us, then 5 of us for a while. Now it's up to 12, and we'll look at that and we said, well, how can a couple of people impact and change 100,000 people company, and the reason why we were able to do is because we did have management who believed in that sort of movement. We had a lot of social media practitioners and grassroots who rallied around and engaged with our customers digitally, and we all learned together. We came together as a big kind of group and we learned together. And we were allowed and empowered to make mistakes and take risks. And people came to us and said, we know what you're suggesting. We don't know that much about the space just yet, but we trust your expertise. We know that you know what you're talking about. So why don't you go create something amazing? And so we sort of kind of failed our way to amazing, and we probably had more successes than we had failures, but the reality is we learned as we went. So I think the culture depends on the vision of the leadership team. It depends on who and how you hire, and it depends on are you empowering or giving people freedom to really truly be themselves, and allowing them to paint the blank canvas. What is the culture that you create? I think it's a bunch of those elements coming together in an ideal sort of environment for you.
I have to make note of what you said, that you failed your way to success. That's a great line. I know you brought an example of a company and how they documented their culture.
Well, so this is a strategy map. There was another map in the book that was actually a culture map. This is an example of Explain. They are smaller digital and visual agency in Portland, Oregon, and they, from the start, the founders actually sat down and had the conversation about, we're creating this company, we want to go build this company at not only national scale but then international. At some point, what should we look at? What should we focus on? What should our culture be? And they just talked about all those different things, and then on the back of the napkin, just the sort of a culture map appeared where they had different elements and different buckets that created the culture, right? Is who are the employees they're going to hire, what's the environment they want to create, et cetera, et cetera. And they outlined all of that in this nice one big visual package. And then this strategy map appeared that's on the screen, and the strategy map says, there's 3 things that are very important to us: our customers, our employees, and our investors. So how do we take our culture map and the environment we're creating and people we're hiring and have all these elements sort of our strategy be supported? So they build it, starting with the culture map, and they literally put it on a map. So my advice to you, if you don't have one already, go sit down, think about it. If you would put your culture on the map, what it would look like, and then they build a strategy map that you're seeing on the screen that then ties and talks about what is the core principles of the company going to be that they're going to stick with no matter what they do.
Good stuff. Now let's just try to just get down to just some of the final takeaways from the book. Give us, you said there's 5 things. Tell us about the 5 Ps and what they mean, if you could.
So starting with passion, I think some of the most successful entrepreneurs that I've seen, they really understand what they want to go do. Zuckerberg obviously is passionate about transparent world and driving, contributing to creating a transparent world. From that passion fuels your purpose. So then what is your purpose? The purpose for Facebook, for example, again, since we're talking about Facebook as some of the key example in the book, is to go and connect people and actually create that transparent world through connections, through building applications. So all the applications that Zuck built in his life, they were all social. They were all created to connect people and get people talking, get people sharing information under their own, real names, and just really having, just kind of beginning that movement online. And then from that purpose, then you have a product that you're building, either product or a service that supports the passion and the purpose that you believe in. And then, the reality is you can't build that product alone. Nobody can ever succeed alone on his or her own. So building the team around that sort of purpose and to help scale the product, to help build and scale the product, you need to really build a strong team. You need to bring good leaders, good folks that, you know, have the right attitude, that they believe in the same things that you do. You know, some of the Facebook co-founders didn't even know, Dustin didn't even know how to code, and he learned because he believed in that, in whatever Zuckerberg was trying to do. So building the product and kind of rallying people around that, and bringing the right people on board, and, you know, leaving the wrong people behind. And then the final sort of chapter covers partnerships, meaning just like you partner with your people around you, with the different folks, you know, investors and even your customers, and, you know, your friends, the people in your, you know, life. I think you really need to look at the partnerships around you and what will help you make that dream come true. And, you know, one of the examples that I talk about in the book is Zuckerberg and Sandberg duo, so Mark and Cheryl, and how they work together, right? This is bringing different sets of complements together in different perspectives to really create something amazing.
Great, and I want to congratulate you on the release of your first book. That's pretty exciting. So for our audience, tell us, where can they find your book? Where can they learn about you? Where can they get more engaged?
So I have a blog, ekaterinawalter.com. I'm really active on Twitter. It's just my first name, Ekaterina. So you can totally connect with me there and ask me questions. I'm always responding. And then the book is available everywhere you want to buy it: Amazon, Barnes and Nobles, in your local stores. So starting on January 15th, you can pick up a hard copy, and the Kindle is already available.
Great. Thank you, Ekaterina. And it was great having Ekaterina Walter on the show today. Really good stuff. So pick up Think Like Zuck at Amazon or on your Kindle, on your iPad, whatever. It's a great book, and you'll learn a lot from reading it. Before we go, we want to thank our sponsors, because sponsors make the show possible. Let me just go through them briefly with you. Avatage is a great content marketing company up in the Boston area, does video content, content engine approach, really good if you need to do content, so avatage.com. Digital Ethos, which is digitalethos.org, not .com, is an educational marketing nonprofit, and they publish a lot of great information. It's digitalethos.org. Communication Strategy Group is a PR and brand telling, great company too, does really good stuff. Eloqua, Revenue Performance Management, great software firm. And the company that provides this great platform we use to record the show is Watchitoo. So go to watchitoo.com to learn how we do this great TV-like show. Marketing Made Simple TV premieres a new show every Thursday at noon Eastern at Marketing Made Simple TV, and at many syndication sites like Social Media Today and Business to Community and Digital Ethos and many other sites. So until next week, we'll see you next time on Marketing Made Simple TV.